really helped build my confidence when I started getting into the field and talking to families about their whole bulletproof plan, which is what we're going to talk about today. So if you have a friend who's been getting in the field, or maybe they got their associate promotion, training just licensed, and they're starting to help families, even if they're not quite licensed yet, give them a text, get them on this because it is going to be gold for you and your clients. So yeah, my name is Stevie. Like I said, I got started in 2021. Julie Zerly, I see her on my screen. She was my licensing coordinator. It was awesome. She helped me get that wrapped up, and then I was off to the races helping families right away. I do come from traditional banking, which is super ironic, you guys. Numbers were not my thing, but I absolutely loved helping people, and I always love, continuously learning. And the bank gave me that opportunity. I never ran out of things to learn. So in my career, I resigned as a senior financial advisor. So I'd learned things about mortgages, and debt planning and investing. So when I came into this business, which most people do not come with a financial background, even with my years of experience in the banking, please take it from someone who worked at the bank for many years. What we do is really special. Okay, so I was taught, it just felt more transactional at the bank, whereas here we actually get to sit down and talk about people's dreams and goals. And so that's what we're going to do today. So gonna just put my gallery view on here, take a look around, see who's in the room, see if I see some new faces that I haven't met yet. Looks like we got some new faces, so good to see you guys, and I look forward to meeting you at the next event. So I'm going to take the first half, and I made some slides here for y'all. So I'm going to share my screen. It's meant to be interactive. If you have any questions as we're going along, put them in the chat. We're going to talk about really incredible resources that we have. I'm definitely a resource kind of gal. And I'm going to share my screen here. And can we give our beautiful Zoom manager a big round of applause? Miss Super Die on the microphone, DJ Super Die, pumping up the jams this morning, getting us all going. Okay, I just got to move some faces here. And we're going to put the slideshow on. And who can I see on my screen? I see Melissa Miller. Guess whose license went live yesterday? Melissa Miller's did. She's got a whole bunch of plans that she's building right now for a lot of families. So I can see my girl. Can you see my screen? Can you give me a thumbs up? Awesome. You can hear me good. Beautiful. Okay. So let's talk about building a bulletproof plan. So what the heck is a bulletproof plan? Has anyone ever had a client say that to you? Well, what do you mean by bulletproof plan, right? So here's what we're going to go over. We're going to go over why planning matters. And I'm going to tease myself just like this morning. If I would have left at 7:30, I could have done loops for a while until I got to the office. I didn't plan effectively to get down to the Cologne office, but I'm heading down there right after this. But all jokes aside, it matters, right? We're going to talk about proper insurance today, right? We're going to talk about when those emergencies come up. We're going to talk about some debt planning, investing for the long term, investing for short term, right? People have goals, maybe buying vehicles, planning for children's education. You're going to be getting to know your clients, right? You're going to be getting to know what their dreams and goals are. And to be quite honest, you're going to be helping most people even start to think about these things. Um, and generational wealth, that's something that I just love talking about. It feels so good when you sit down with someone and they have children and grandchildren, and we talk about ways that we can transfer wealth to the next generation. And then, of course, it's really important. We want to make sure that our family is left behind, comfortably, safely with our plan today, right? So, future Melissa is like, thank you so much, past Melissa, for like setting our family up for success. Okay, so let's get into it. What is a bulletproof plan, right? So, just exactly what we talked about. And what we're going to do today is for anyone who hasn't done their own bulletproof plan, or maybe you've gotten a start into it, let's start thinking about your own, right? It starts with you. So, when we're sitting down with someone, we're going to do a bit of an info gather, which we'll have on a slide here. But let's think about our personal situation in this exact moment. Okay. So where does your income currently sit? Right? When we think about that, where am I sitting at on an annual income, a monthly income, right? Where are we going? Where would I like to be? Do we have any debt right now? Right? What does our savings look like? And what if an emergency happened today? Or what if an emergency happened tomorrow? Emergencies happen every day. And like that's the hard part of us about our, it can be, but that like not all heroes wear capes. I love that phrase. Because how many stories have you guys heard about an emergency happening? And here we are. We sat down with the family and we made sure that they were properly protected. It happens every day, right? So if your family ran into an emergency tomorrow, critical illness, terminal illness, an injury, a disability, right? Or heaven forbids, you lost someone, are you currently totally protected? Do you feel comfortable with the protection that you have? Right? What about your plan? Is it bulletproof? And so, what does it mean for your family, Melissa, Shane, Heidi, Diane? Like, what does it mean for your family? Not mine, not me, the advisor. My job is to help walk you through that. And we're going to crunch some numbers and see what makes the most sense, right? And how do you find out what coverages you need? Well, guess what, guys? If you got a license, we're here to keep building our skills. We're going to master our skills at this, right? And guess what? If you don't have a license, you have so many resources to become a professional in your field to be helping. And it's not that complicated. What I love about our agency is they simplify this so beautifully for us to be able to go out and keep it simple, right? So where does it start? It starts with an info gather. How many have done an info gather so far? I can see Brittany on my screen and Tristan. Hi, Tristan. NWO, right? Maybe you sat in the field and you watched your trainer do an info gather. Was that really like, did that look super tough? It's all laid out right there for us, right? What's your date of birth? What's your smoking status? When do you want to retire? How many of you guys have sat down with someone and you ask them that question? Hey, what are your dreams and goals? And do you kind of get them kind of like, to pay my bills? No? Like that was my answer when I got started and Angela did my info gather. And so it is really, really beautiful. Please believe me that when we start helping guide people to start thinking beyond survival mode, right? And thinking about their dreams and goals and their travel goals and their family goals, that feels really, really good. And so, what about yours, right? What are your goals? Where do you want to be? When do you want to be financially free? Are you going to have grandbabies? What are you doing? Are you traveling? Right? What does that all look like? Yes, there's serious conversation in here, but it can also be something that is a safe place and feels really, really good for you and your clients when you sit down. And of course, zero judgment. What is our mission statement? No family left behind. So whether you don't even have a dollar in savings or you have millions, we treat people with the same respect. And that's what I love about our company. Okay, so we start with that info gather. Okay, so we've done our info gather, and immediately, just like what we talked about, yes, we need to start our savings. Yes, we need to do our debt. Yes, we need our financial independence number. But what if something happens tomorrow, right? And this is like the emotional conversation. And I'll share a little story with you guys. So coming from a financial background, I was really comfortable talking about mortgages and investing. I could come in here and talk about that stuff till I was blue in the face. I was a little tiptoey around insurance, kind of tiptoeing. And Angela was so good in the field with me. She did duplication. She taught me how she was taught, how Adam was taught, and guess where he was taught from Greg? Guess where he was taught from Rael? we all get these really beautiful tools to pass this knowledge along to your next business partner and set them up for success. So that's what Angela did for me. And she had a real conversation with me about what would happen if I died. And I was like, man, well, I got some debt. I don't want to leave that behind to my family, right? And so, what if I got sick? My auntie just had cancer, right? We know people that get hurt all the time. So, anyways, I'll share the story. So, it was CFT training. Anyone out there, CFT, we'll talk about that in a moment as well. I'm going to keep my eye on the time here. So, I was in CFT training, I was an associate. And that week, I had sat down with my good friend and her partner. And yeah, we were looking at refinancing their mortgage. We were going to put the mortgage referral in. We were building life insurance plans, children's plans, everything. She was interested in the business. And unfortunately, that weekend, our appointment was to meet the following Monday, Tuesday. And unfortunately, her partner passed away that weekend. So I had met with them like on a Thursday. Our appointment was set for the next week. And that's how quick that happened. And so that day forward, I was no longer uncomfortable ever talking about proper protection. And once you guys get in the field and you start looking at proper insurance, like how many of you guys out there have like looked at people's loan insurance, line of credit insurance, and it's so expensive? And then you pull a comparison with ours and we save them hundreds and hundreds of dollars, thousands throughout the years. Like what we got is so good, and you can feel empowered by asking these questions to help them with their bulletproof plan. And it feels really good. So, what do we need to do to like determine this, right? Well, number one, I'm just going to flip through the screen here, see who I can see. I see Gina and Gary and Jen. Good to see you guys. Lindsay at the office, Amy, right? So, have you ever sat down like in one of your first appointments? You're like, man, I have no idea. Like, where do I even begin, right? Well, we start by getting in the field and we take lots of notes. Use this as an opportunity, like a practicum, right? An apprenticeship, right? You get paid. We have a bonus structure that you can run for. You're a training associate, you get to hang out, learn, right? And so take lots of notes and practice. So we have these incredible tools like Hit Scripts, right? We have the app with the learning center. Um, you know, I got a few Netflix shows. I'm not gonna lie. I got some shows I like. But sometimes what I do is instead of putting those shows on, I'll watch the videos. And even to this, like I will always do that. I'll forever be a student, and I hope that you are too. And so you can master your skills. So we get in the field, we use the scripts, we work towards our CFT, we do all the field training. And so when we're sitting down with a family or when you're determining your own insurance amount, let's consider this, right? So typically we recommend 10 to 20 times the annual income for your insurance coverage, right? My annual income is blank. This is what we suggest. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, or for you and your family, if something terrible were to happen, there would be a tax-free amount of money paid out to the surviving spouse. What would that be used for? So what are we doing? We're getting to know our client, right? So we're getting to know them. It's not my plan. It's not my budget, right? It's theirs. And so that's really one of the biggest things when building a bulletproof plan is is really getting to know them. And that's the best part. You're building that relationship so that you can help service them and their family for years and years and years to come. So we determine the insurance amount and set up that protection. You know, Typically that's the first thing you want to do because an emergency could happen at any time. Okay. What's another part of your guys' personal plan that you want to make sure, right? What about setting some money aside every payday, right? And how much do you need to set aside? Well, that's up to you because what are your goals, right? What's your financial independence number? So again, like we talked about, when we're paying ourselves and starting to put into a savings program, there's going to be long term, short term, medium term. Maybe you have a vehicle that you need to buy, saving for children's education, but really just start to think about it. Okay, so again, this is where we get to dream and have fun. I want to buy my family a property in Mexico. I would like multiple properties now. What is that for you? Paint the picture. How many people have you sat down with and you asked them that question? When would you like to retire? And they're like, oh, man, I'm never not going to be able to work, right? So my idea, if it's a fit, would be our opportunity. That's our best product. And who knows? We don't make that judgment, right? Do you keep your options open to earning extra income? We have a corporate overview. Who knows, right? Might be a fit. So remember again that most people need help with this. So when you're sitting in the appointment, right, just really get comfortable with that conversation. Who else do I see on my screen? I see, the hair ups. And I see my SMD, Ange. Okay, you know what Angela did for us? She's like, this is the hair ups. This is Stevie. Go practice. And that's what we did. And we got together and we read the scripts over and over and over. And we got really good at being able to ask these open-ended questions and help them because these conversations are rarely had. Okay, so we're going to set up the protection. We're going to figure out what their savings, what they're saving towards, right? Getting pretty bulletproof here because if an emergency happens, they got protection. And now they've run into a little situation. They got some savings going, you guys. This actually makes me a bit emotional because it's really powerful. It's really beautiful. Okay, so where's the money going for each family, right? We don't ever want to just assume, right? We don't want to ever overextend their budget or undersave for them. I think it was Sierra. She had said in a class one time, are you using your own budget for your client? She was speaking to us. And I went, boom, oh my gosh. You know, I don't get to assume what that is for this family, right? We don't want to over leverage them. We come from a really, really cool holistic approach, you guys here. Again, another empowering thought for you from someone who worked at a bank. Think about it this way. You go to just only a mortgage specialist. That's all they do. What you're going to find is they're going to leverage majority of their budget for that mortgage, right? Then you go to only someone who does investments. They're going to leverage most of that budget, if not all, to investments. And let's just keep filling in the blanks. An insurance agent, someone with debt, da 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 da. But guess what, guys? We have access to all of that. We have access to do a whole bulletproof plan and look at all of those pieces of their financial plan. So what do we need to do? We need to get the budget. And you can just simply start by asking. I see Eric on my screen from Team Reach. Say I was sitting down with him, he might be on his bulletproof plan. And I say to him, how much have you thought about putting aside for your goals, for your plan? He might have a number already. You know what? I've been crunching the numbers. I got $1,000. Or he'll go, I have no idea, right? So we're going to get started with them. We're going to do the budget. We're going to see where their cash flows are going. This alone, you guys, is so powerful. Even me as a banker, I still need, or as a banker for so many years, I still need an advisor. I sit down with people on my team quite frequently, and we go through this and we see where the cash flows are going. I had to tighten up a few things around here. You know, if we want to get to our dreams and goals, we need to know where our money's going. And now for you as the advisor, you can see if they're at a surplus or deficit. You can help start looking at where we need to put this money for this family. How good does that feel? And how good does that feel for you and your family? You're like, holy smokes, I could actually put X amount away. I might actually be able to be financially free, or I need to make some adjustments. This is a really big deal, you guys. Telling you. Okay. So the emergency savings, right? Short-term savings, some people have that. You want to keep that in mind when we're doing investing, right? So we have access to the best investments. We have segregated funds. We have guarantees. We have low MERs. We have beautiful, beautiful returns, you guys. I'm telling you, right? And so the rule of 72, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter if you're sitting down with Jason and he's got $1 million to invest, and we're sitting down with Shannon and she's going to start doing a $50 pack every month. It doesn't matter. But education, and knowledge is power. And when we implement it and we talk about these things over and over with our clients, right, it's really impactful for their bulletproof plan, right? Because how many of you guys have, sat down with someone and they're like, oh, yeah, I got savings. I got savings at TD. I got savings at RBC. I got savings with my job. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Cool. Beautiful. When was the last time, you reviewed that or had a complimentary review? Everything we do is complimentary. Doesn't hurt to take a look. Have you heard of the rule of 72 before? So for example, if you have 4% at this bank, and you have 8% on average here, by retirement, you'll have 40,000 here and 160 over here. Which would you prefer? Right? And so a lot of people, you see their eyes light up and go, man, yeah, it's been a while. My dad is a really good example of this. My dad worked for the railway for many, many, many years, BC Rail. And this is what he was earning. He was actually earning less than that in his pension. And now what he used to be making annually, he's making monthly with us. So over here, share these good news stories. And if you're brand new, guess what? We're all a team. So Shannon can say, you should see what we did. You should see what we did in our team this week, right? You can share those stories to help seal, this plan. Okay, couple more minutes here, guys, for me. And then we have the beautiful Amber McLean. Oh gosh, she's gonna come share some gold with you guys. Keep those pens out. Okay, so how do we explain your financial independence number? Right? And like we're doing, we're thinking about our own. I'm over here thinking about my own too, guys, big time, right? I need to help a lot more people. And that's through helping clients and through helping people get started in our business, right? But let's just I'm going to keep sliding through here. Who else do we have here? I see Amber, Laura, Jenna, Ian. Good to see you guys, right? What about you? Okay. So, from your age right now, have you thought about how much you need to set aside for when you want to, be done working? Right? Like, what does that look like for you specifically? And when do you want that? Right? What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? Right? Freedom 50, 55, 65, 70. Well, we have these really beautiful tools where you can start punching in these numbers and you can look at how long do you need that money to last, right? I like to go to age 100. So let's say Ian, I see him on my screen. He goes, 65. I need, $1 million, whatever the case may be. Okay, so now that $1 million, right? How long is that going to last him? How much does he need to spend every month to sustain his lifestyle? He's traveling. He's going all over the world. He's got grandchildren and great grandchildren. He's passing down generational wealth. He's starting savings programs. He's got to buy new vehicles, right? Because remember, we asked him, what are his dreams and goals? So now he's like, well, I need at least 10 grand a month, 5 grand, 3 grand, 2 grand, whatever it is for you. So do we have enough for you to not outlive your hard-earned savings? Is there anything that we need to do? And then, of course, you guys, we won't get too much into it, but just looking at all sources of income and considering that. Get to know your customer. That's the best answer. How to create a bulletproof plan. Get to know your client. Get to know your situation. So then we also get to talk about things like generational wealth. So we've set up the protection. We've talked about short-term savings. right? We've talked about the rule of 72. We have a budget, we have cash flow. We see where the cash flow is going. Hey, we offered the opportunity and just got a new business partner, probably two, one or two in there, right? Now they're going to come in and really talk about generational wealth with this opportunity. And then outside of everything that we do, you get to keep learning and building and mastering your skills to be the degree of a professional that you want to be. I look up to the other SMDs that we work with. When we get to go on to these meetings and talk about the ways that they're helping families, it's absolutely inspirational to keep building my skill, right? So we get to learn about tax sheltering, children's education. How many people do you know who have children? Right? Those child universal life policies, which Amber is going to really bring home today and talk about how to talk to those parents, right? So, this is a really good way to wrap up. Corporate tax planning and so much more. So, I end with this. Please, from the bottom of my heart to yours, when you're out there, you have the right to feel pretty empowered about what you're doing here. You're getting a license, you got your license, you've done your studies, you show up to classes, right? You're here. This is where you learn to do the work. You're investing into yourself right now and getting this into your mind to go out there and help families. Then you're going to get to work and make some calls and invite people to presentations to show them what we do. And then you're going to help them in a huge, huge way. So please feel empowered and proud about what we're doing here because we do build bulletproof plans, I promise you. And again, if you're just new and you're kind of just coming in, take it from someone who worked at the bank for many moons. Okay, we're doing something awesome here. So thank you for, yeah, thanks for listening to me. Thanks for being here. I had a blast, and I'm going to head down to Kelowna branch. I see you guys. I'm coming, I promise. Let's introduce the beautiful Amber McLean. She's gonna wrap us up here on, a beautiful bulletproof plan, and she's gonna talk a lot about how we have conversations with those parents, especially. So take it away, Amber.
Woohoo! Great job, Stevie. We were loving it here in office in NWO. We are incredibly jealous that you are heading down to Kelowna because I can guarantee without even looking at the weather, it's better than Thunder Bay. That's all I'm gonna say is I can guarantee that it is better than Thunder Bay. I'm doing my best to still bring the Hawaii vibes. So thank you, Nick Brown, for my Hawaiian shaved ice Alani because I feel like if I just drink enough Hawaiian Alanis that I can like close my eyes and pretend I'm in Hawaii still. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Pop some takeaways in the chat. I know Stevie just gave you a bunch of great information, a bunch of nuggets, because these are the little pieces of the puzzle that we're going to be able to take and we're going to be able to master when we're sitting down with these families, when we're getting in front of them, when we're helping them get plans in place. Okay, so we've got start with ourselves. Absolutely, Dave Rogers, great job. What does it cost to be you? Think beyond survival mode, dream with the client, look at our own plan first, ask questions, get your clients to think. Yes, help them think for the future. Pardon me? Are you using your budget or the client's budget? Ooh, that is a good one. Are you using your budget or are you using the client's budget? Are you using your budget or are you using the client's budget? We're doing a good thing. Don't assume your plan will be the same as theirs. Absolutely. And I point that out in my appointments. When I'm sitting with a family, I point that out. I say, hey, at the end of the day, your goals and dreams are going to be very different than mine. Even if we have some similarities, we might be taking some different paths along the way. So that is something that I've always been excited for. And even when I'm talking to new agents in the business about their goals in this business, it's really important that you go chase your goal in the business, right? Your goal could be totally different than somebody else's. And I've talked about this lots before, but when I first started in the business, I often felt there wasn't anybody else like us. There was a lot of people that wanted to become super wealthy and live in a city and drive an electric car. And that was just not something that got me excited in the morning to go build this business. I've often joked that I've always wanted to live and stay living out in the country. And the wealthier I get, the less miles per gallon I want on my vehicle. Like that's my game plan, right? Like the wealthier I get, the less miles per gallon I want on my vehicle. I don't want anything that's electric. I want like the biggest, baddest diesel or gas sucking pig I can get because why not? You can afford it at that point, right? Yeah, Gary, roll some coal. Reese is on the same page, but who knows? He might convert into, a green thumb and drive an electric car one day. I'm not sure. I did see him eat some granola one day. But we're gonna get back into things when it comes to the client side. But a couple things that I really want to spend some time on is number one, I'm gonna go through a little bit of a recap of the stages of a bulletproof financial plan because I want you guys to be able to write these down in order. And this is just my personal opinion on the order that I believe they should be in. Everybody's is going to be a little bit different, and that is okay. So when I'm looking at the 5 steps to a bulletproof financial plan, this is the order that I go in. Number one, above all else, is protect the foundation. Protect the foundation. And I'm going to open up the chat here so that I can follow along with some of you guys and I can see your interaction. But when it comes to protecting the foundation, this is a really great spot to be able to ask some of those questions that Stevie was walking you through, right? If something happened to your income tomorrow, what is the plan? So this might sound silly, but the biggest piece of advice I can give you in this moment is to shut up. Once you ask this question, stop talking. Once you ask this question, stop talking because we need to be able to get their, we need to be able to get their, we have a visitor. This is great. But we need to be able to get their response, right? So if we ask them a question, we need to give them time to respond. We go through these questions all day, every day with new clients, but this could be the very first time someone's ever asked them this question. Okay. So you're going to ask them the question and then you're going to zip it. Back in the olden days, I'm going to take you back a little bit here. But back in the olden days, you used to get kicked under the table if you didn't shut up. Like if you weren't quiet, your SMD or your trainer would give you a little kick, right? Or Paige, yeah, she pinched me too. So Paige would actually, like, if we were sitting on the same side and the clients were across from us, Paige's hand would go like under the table and she would like squeeze my leg. And that was my sign to stop talking. Brittany grew up in the Zoom era. She just got muted, which is awesome. And, this is kind of funny to talk about. And like we all joke around about being kicked under the table back in the day or our legs squeezed or being muted. But it's so important because at the end of the day, we need the client telling us why they need this in place. Oftentimes I remind agents, every single client we're dealing with is like a fickle toddler, right? Or like a disobedient teenager. I know that Reese has both of these in his life right now, right? A fickle toddler or a disobedient teenager is what we're dealing with on a daily basis when we're sitting with clients. So we need to make it their idea. If we say it, it's wrong. If they say it, it's right. So what we need to do is we need to ask really good questions and we have to wait for the answer. Okay, so there's going to be a few rules of thumb that you can start with, right? Like this is a really good starting point, but it's not going to be exact for everybody. Life insurance rule of thumb is obviously 10 to 20 times someone's annual income. Good and healthy, fully underwritten. Poor health, you're going to look for some simplified issued products. And if you're newer in the business, that's okay. You're going to learn this as you go, right? You're going to learn this as you go. Critical illness, disability coverage, whatever that family needs in play, that if something happened to their income tomorrow, are they okay? Is their family okay? Will they lose their home? Like, what does that look like? Number two, audit the budget and the debts. Where is your money going now? So when we're sitting with a family, where is their money going now? Review their income and expenses. List all their debts and payments. Check for equity in the home. Look for leaks in the spending. Has anyone ever had a leak in their spending before? A leak in their spending? No, just me? I'm the only one? I saw Diane's hand go up. Paige had a big leak in Hawaii. Like there was a hole in the boat, right? There was just spending flowing. Reese was joking in Hawaii with Greg, and he goes, I know why WFG takes us here because they want you to realize how poor you are and that you have to make more money. That's why they take you to Hawaii. Set clear goals, 1 to 5 year goals. Sometimes when you're sitting with a family, they can't think 10 years in advance, but they could think about the next 6 months. They could think about the next year, maybe the next two, maybe the next five. Emergency fund, 3 months expenses sitting in the bank is an ideal scenario. Are we going to be able to help a client always get there tomorrow? No, but this is something we can work towards. Are they saving for a home? Are they saving to have a baby? Are they saving for a vehicle? Retirement, are they preparing for that? Do they have short, medium, and long-term savings? Short, medium, and long-term savings. Number 4, start a simple savings plan. One of the biggest problems that a new client can face, one of the biggest clients that a new problem, or one of the biggest problems, sorry, a new client can face is that sometimes they get overwhelmed really easily because we start to change everything right away. What we need to do is we need to piece by piece. And if you've ever been in an appointment with me, you'll often hear me say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So step 1 is we're going to do this. Then we're going to get back together and we're going to do this. And then we're going to get back together and we're going to do this, right? And then last but not least is revisit and adjust every 6 to 12 months. Because what has changed for you in the last 6 to 12 months? So if you've had changes in your life, do you not think that your client has had changes in their life? So do they need to update their insurance? Have they not had a new baby? Have they bought a new home? Have they changed jobs? Have they increased their income? Did they lose their job? Do you need to rebalance their investment risk? Like, these are things that we need to do to maintain our client's portfolio properly, right? This is not something, I see Diane on here. She's big into fitness. If she sat with a trainer today, they gave her a plan to follow, they gave her meals to follow, and they said, "See you in 20 years, Diane." What is the odds that 20 years later, she's still doing all of those same things that they taught her? It's very, very slim, right? So it's really important that we're revisiting, we're readjusting, we're getting them back on track every 6 to 12 months. Typically, every 6 months, I'll reach out to them and I'll just say, like, hey, just checking in. How's everything going? Do you have anything you want to get together and discuss? If they say no, by the time a year goes by, I'm like, dude, I want to see you face to face. Let's get on Zoom, right? Like, I want to make sure that everything is still going where it needs to go. All right. Keep it simple and smart. Keep it simple and smart. So pay off the debts, save money, protect the income. I tell my clients all of the time. I say, hey, you know what? I'm not the bad guy. I'm not the one that's going to come in here and be like, you're never buying Starbucks again. You're never going on a vacation with your family again. You're never, lock yourself in your house, save money, don't spend, penny pinch till the sun goes down. I'm not that person. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure you have the right resources in place to pay off your debts, to save money and protect your income, and then live your friggin' life with the rest. It's going to be awesome. And you're going to feel so much better about doing that because you have these things in place that have your back. So when I first started in the business back in the olden days, carrying paperwork uphill both ways in a snowstorm, Paige living in Edmonton, we didn't use Zoom yet. We used to call in for full-timers calls. Paige would FaceTime me and try to walk me through paperwork. Like it was a crazy world back then. But what I was able to do was I was able to build my business off the basics. And I like to remind agents that even if you put a simple plan in place for somebody, it doesn't have to be this most complex plan. Kyler, he's an engineer. He can build spreadsheets that look phenomenal and he can break things down to like degrees that I didn't even know existed, to be totally honest. Like I've sat with Kyler on Zoom a couple times and he's taught me things and I'm like, my brain hurts. I'm like, you are so smart. Like, how do you do this? But even if you put a simple plan in place, I can promise you that it is better than 95% of what clients have in place already. Even just the basics, like I said, paying off the debt, saving the money, protecting the income. Just because we're simple does not mean we're cookie cutter, but that also doesn't mean we're complex. So a simple plan can still be customized to every single family's needs that you sit with. Again, if you've been in the field with me, you'll hear me say with a client, Rule of thumb is 10 to 20 times your income for life insurance. However, if I sit down with a single guy with that works out of town 2 weeks, has no kids, no spouse, no house, he might not need 10 to 20 times. But if I sit down with someone that has 6 kids, 2 rental properties, a house, 3 ex-wives, 4 dogs, like he might need a little more, right? So you're going to gain confidence by going in the field. You will never gain confidence by just researching the products and learning about everything, because nothing will ever fully make sense until you're in the field, sitting with a family, watching it happen in real life. When I first got started in business, my field training was truthfully, it was comical when I look back at it. And I'm sure Paige often thinks like, how the heck, what? Right? When I first got started, one of my very first appointments was my brother. And my brother at the time was in his very early 20s. He's a trades kid, so he's always greasy, dirty, smells like gas, right? And I called him one day because Paige said, "Your job is to put people in front of the information." And I was like, on it. So I called my brother. I'm like, "Meet me at Starbucks tomorrow, 9 a.m." He's like, "Okay, cool." I hung up the phone. That was my invite. Meet me at Starbucks, 9 a.m. Okay, cool. Click, done. He couldn't ask me more questions. I didn't even think of him asking me questions. I didn't know answers to questions. I truthfully didn't know why he had to meet Paige, but I was just like, put people in front of the information. Done. We also didn't have an office at the time. And this was back in the day where you met everybody in office. So that's why we met at Starbucks. So we get there. He shows up exactly how I expected him to show up: greasy, dirty, smelling like fuel. But he also had a dog in the car. So then he walks in and I'm like, "Hey, this is Paige." And then Paige was like, "Hello." And my brother's like, "Sup?" And like that was their interaction. And then Paige looks at me and she goes, "Does he know why he's here?" And I was like, "No, that's your job." Like, that wasn't my job. You said put people in front of the information. Case closed, hands are clean, right? And she goes, "Oh my gosh." She goes, "Hi, I'm Paige." She starts to explain a few things to him. He goes, "Well, I got a dog in the car." She goes, "Can I meet the dog?" So then they go out, they meet the dog, they come in, we do a full appointment. He loves everything that we show him. He's like, "This is great. I got to show my wife. We need plans in place. No one's ever taught us. We just bought our first house. This is going to be awesome." So, number one is you can't say the wrong thing to the right people. But from one of those very first appointments, obviously, I got a really good lesson on inviting people after Clint left. Like after my brother left, Paige gave me a great lesson on how to invite people, what to say to them, and how to introduce them when they show up, right? So that was the first lesson. But number two is that he was able to get this great plan in place. I hadn't even started studying yet, you guys. I hadn't even started studying yet. But then after that appointment, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what we do is incredible. What we're able to put in place for these people is incredible. Like what he'll have in the future by following this plan is going to be phenomenal." So Paige put a plan in place for him. We were able to get him set up right away. I got into studying. The things I was studying started to make more sense. I gained more confidence. All of the things started to happen, which was awesome. And since then, over the last 9 years, because of those strategies that we were able to teach him, like I said, he had just bought his first home. He was in his early 20s and no one was giving him the time of day. Since then, he bought a fiveplex, he bought a flip house, he bought a rental property, he bought another house, he sold all of them, and he bought 120 acres on a lake and he's in the middle of building a wedding venue. Like, how cool is that over the last 9 years? And I'm not saying that it's all because of us, but I'm saying those strategies that we taught him, they empowered him to make decisions that were able to take him closer and closer to his goals every single year. And just recently, I did a review with him and his wife. They've got over $10,000 each in their life insurance policies, not to mention their investments, not to mention the coverage they have in place, not to mention any of these other things. So the ripple effect of that has been huge. And on top of that, he has referred me over 20 clients easily just in this last year. Just in this last year. And I'm telling you, I've shared some of his referrals with you guys before, and they are as informal as my introduction to him in the business. And now I feel like I'm connecting the dots. Like my introduction was informal, so now his introduction is informal, but it's working. He puts me in a group chat and he goes, "My homie needs to make some Skrilla." And then he sends a funny GIF and he like lets it go from there. And then the guys that he works with or his friends, they pop in, they sit down, they get a full plan, they refer me people. Like it just keeps going. but it's from learning those basics, not overcomplicating things, and just getting those people in front of the information. So we're gonna go back to the slideshow here. Yeah, so he's earning his way to his Africa trip this summer. I can promise you that, right? He's like he's like, I'm not going for free. I'm not going for free. I'm earning my way there. So, like I said, you are not going to gain confidence or skills without going in the field. So I would recommend, no matter what season of the business you're in, if you've been here for 2 days, 6 months, 5 years, 10 years, go get in the field this week and go practice what we're teaching you today. Triage. All right, bringing it back for you guys. So, as you guys know, if you've been around for a little while, about a year ago, the Dawes were in Arizona with Paige, with Reese. Adam was losing pickleball to Reese, so he head dived into a concrete block, got a big gash in his head, had to go to the hospital. But the reason I bring this visual up is because it's such a good reminder of when we're sitting with the families, is that we need to triage the situation. We need to triage the situation. So sometimes you're going to have a client come in that is really, really concerned about, let's say, getting an education fund in place for their kids. And when you sit down with them, the process is always going to be the same. You're going to educate them. So you're going to go through the flip chart. You're going to gather information of what they're currently doing, where they're trying to get to, what's coming in, what's going out, all that good stuff. But if they're super hyper focused and like losing sleep at night because they want to get an education fund in place for their kids, even if you see some other things going on in their financial plan that need help, you need to assess and you need to address what they're concerned about first. Okay? You need to address what they're concerned about first. Because when you address what they're concerned about first, is they're going to build trust with you. They're like, wow, for once in my life, someone is actually listening to me. You're going to show them a result. So they had a concern, they reached out to someone, you put it in place, there's a result, right? You're going to build integrity. You're going to show them that you're somebody that takes action, that gives guidance, that provides education. So, this situation with Adam with his gushing head when he went into the hospital, if he went into the hospital and the nurse was like, oh, but we should x-ray your knee. Your knee looks quite sore. Like when you walked in, you had a limp. And Adam's like, but no, like I'm bleeding from my head. Like I need this addressed. And they were like, but no, sir, like your knee is just so important right now. I saw you limping. We got to get an x-ray right away. Is he going to feel heard? Is he going to have any trust with that hospital? He's not getting any of the results he's looking for. They're not taking any action. Like they're just blowing it out of the water of what he's concerned about to focus on what they're concerned about. And that's not our job. Our job is to help them with their concerns. But then after you help them with their concerns, I'll take this down in case any of you guys are eating breakfast. But after we've helped them with their concerns, this is now an opportunity for us to say, okay, we've got this in place for you. My recommendation is the next steps would be XYZ. Now, this is an opportunity for you to start coming back with your recommendations. If you go to the doctor because you broke your leg and he finds out you're diabetic, he's not like, oh, I won't tell him. They were worried about their leg, right? Like the doctor's not going to do that. The doctor's going to be like, okay, your leg's in a cast. Good news. We got that tackled. Bad news, we found out you're diabetic. We got to tackle that, right? So when we're sitting down with families, make sure you're triaging the situation. Make sure you're taking care of the thing that they are the most concerned about first. And then you're coming back with your recommendations. Okay. So that's something that's really, really important. And then we only have a couple minutes left, but I want to leave you with a couple more things that I teach the families that I'm sitting with. So number one is the teeter-totter. So when you're sitting with someone and you're trying to help them get life insurance coverage in place, I think of Emily. She's in the office right now. We recently sat down with a gentleman that works in emergency services. He's got a bunch of rental properties, and this guy came in hot and he's like, I want $3 million in coverage. And we're like, okay, cool. And he's 46 years old. And I was like, you're not gonna like me, right? Like, like you're not gonna like that quote, buddy. And I was like, okay. So then asking good questions and listening to his responses, We asked him things like, well, how long does he want that 3 million in coverage to last? He's like, forever. And I was like, my eyes like twitching a little bit, right? I'm like, well, sometimes having $3 million of coverage last for the rest of your life can be quite expensive. And he was like, it can't be that bad. And I was like, why don't I put together a couple examples for you? I said, can I put together an example of the 3 million staying forever? And then can I show you an example of the 3 million slowly like decreasing over the years? He was like, sure, but I'm going to want the 3 million to last forever. I was like, okay, sounds great. I'm like, you won't, but I'm like, so then Emily and I, we put together these plans. We come back to him. We show him the 3 million in coverage that lasts forever. And let me tell you that his eyes were like a cartoon. They were like boing, right? Like they like flew out of his head because it was so expensive. They flew out of his head, it felt like. And he was like, wow, that's really expensive. And I was like, no kidding. Okay, yeah, interesting. Well, let me show you the other plan. So then what we did was we showed him a plan that was layered, that followed his needs throughout his life, and the coverage that he had slowly decreased over time. And he's like, well, this doesn't make sense because I need the 3 million in coverage. So I explained to him the teeter-totter system. When we first apply for coverage for someone, their debts are the highest, their savings are the lowest, and their dependents are the most dependent on their income in the beginning, right? So that's why we need the biggest amount of coverage at the beginning. But what's going to happen over time is that scale is going to start to tip, just like a teeter-totter. So then what that means is the debts are going to start to come down, their savings are going to be higher, and their dependents,
Whatever.
Johnny, and their dependents won't be as dependent on their income down the road, right? Because 20 years from now, this guy's going to be retired. So at the end of the day, if the income or the insurance that we're putting in place is protecting three things: paying off debts, final expenses, income replacement for the spouse. So if somebody isn't working anymore, if they are retired, do we need to take into consideration income replacement for the spouse? No, because there's no income to replace anymore, right? So that teeter-totter is going to start to switch sides. So debts are the highest, savings are the lowest, and you have the most dependence on your income. Over time, that scale is going to tip. Your savings are going to be at their highest, your debts are going to be the lowest. And, 20, 30 years from now, whatever his kids are, if he passed away, it's awful, but it's not going to be like their 10-year-old children that are super dependent on his income. And then he was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, sounds great. Let's apply, right? So the teeter-totter is a really big one. I use that a lot for clients. And then the last piece, like Stevie said, I'm going to touch on the parents with kids sides of things. So if you're a parent and you have kids, I'm going to need some participation from you in the chat on this one. But if you were to pass away today, what would you want to still be a part of in your children's lives? Start putting some ideas in the chat. If you were to pass away today, Heidi said wedding, Reese said everything. Get more specific, Reese. Buying their first house, graduation, travel, graduation, wedding, first home, education, car, memories and trips, education savings, marriage, education, house, purchase, businesses, freedom for them, first home, next pair of shoes. Yeah, absolutely. Cottage, first car, first house. Okay. Oh, college. Can't read this morning. Them being able to carry forward a legacy, starting a business, their independence. These are great. These are really good examples. So I just did with you what I do with my clients that have children. I say, hey, if you were to pass away today, what would you still want to be a part of in your children's lives? When I think of that, things I want to be a part of is I want to make sure that if I passed away tomorrow, Taya gets a freaking grad dress, and not one that dad picks out. No offense, dad. But let's be honest, daddy-o, you are probably not a great dress picker. We're going to involve an auntie in that one, right? I want to be involved in, what if your kids need braces down the road? What if your kids still want to be in sports? What if your kids need, they get sick or something and they need help with treatments, or, what if they want to go away to a school in a different country or a different province? Like you guys talked about, first home, first car, Do you want to be involved in your grandkids' lives at one point? Like, do you want a piece of the puzzle left behind for grandkids that don't even exist yet? So, what we want to do, oh, good job, Jason, providing for my grandkids. So, what we want to do is we want to start brainstorming with them. If you were to pass away tomorrow, what would you still want to be a part of? Right? What would you still want to be a part of? Laura May, my kids wanted a fancy vacation after their dad passed. Absolutely. Like what is that going to look like, right? So this is a really good opportunity to get your clients thinking because sometimes they think, well, if I pass away, as long as the bills are paid, that's okay. But is it okay? Like it, and for some people, they might feel okay with that, but like that's not okay for me. And so typically, Talia, I would ask that at the point where we're on the page where we're trying to discover the insurance amount. Because then if they say, well, I would want to make sure I'm here for this, 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 and this, then I would go through the insurance amount and I would say, do you think this is enough or would you want more? Do you think this is enough or would you want more? At no point will you ever hear me ask a client, do you think this much life insurance is okay? Is that enough? Is that too much? Right? Like you're never going to hear me say those things. I'm like, hey, Diane, based off of what we've talked about, this is how much coverage it would be if we had X amount times your income. Diane, is this enough or would you want more? Now she gets to tell me, right? And what did we talk about in the beginning? If I tell her it's wrong, but if she tells me it's right. So if I'm like, Diane, that's not enough coverage, she's like, what do you mean that's not enough coverage? But if I'm like, is this enough or you want more? She's like, no, I want more. So this is a really good opportunity. And like, even in my own life, over the last 9 years, so when I first got started in the business, I did exactly what Stevie said. I got a personal plan in place. I protected my needs. But I can promise you, the needs of somebody that was making 9 grand a year as a server versus where we are now in life are very different. So grateful, I've revisited my own personal plan and I've added to it and I've expanded on it over the years because the problems I solved 9 years ago wouldn't solve the problems I want to solve today. The problems I solved 9 years ago wouldn't solve the problems I'd want to solve today. Something I've recently added, and I share this with clients a lot, is I've recently added a very large insurance policy specifically for Taya, like to go to Taya. And it's in trust to Auntie Paige. So if I die or something, you guys make sure she spends it good on Taya, okay? Um, but the reason I put it in trust to her is because having a daughter, you need a woman in their life at some point, right? Not every dad wants to go tampon shopping, right? Not every dad wants to go buy underwear. Not every dad wants to go clothes shopping at the beginning of the school year, go for haircuts, go for nails, do all of those types of things. First bra, Gina. Yeah, exactly. Well, she's like me. She probably never need one. But there's so many pieces of the puzzle that I would want a woman's influence involved in for her. So this doesn't take away for what I have in place to protect my husband, to take care of him, but it's an additional piece of the puzzle that I added down the road when I could afford it to 100% take care of her. Okay? So it is noon. We got to hustle our muscle and we got to get on that call with Bergeron and Ada because this is our very first Vegas night out call that we're going to be hosting with the Bergeron team. So go over there, hop on the call. Hope you guys got some great takeaways and go implement them in the field this week. Bye, guys.